Everybody, Mike here with some tips on developing in Python. Now, many of you who've been working with ScienceLogic SL1 for a while are probably familiar with the event you'll see that says something to the effect of none type object does not have something, or none type object is not subscriptable. Now, that often happens because there is some data that was not collected appropriately, and the code didn't allow for that to happen. So when you're writing your own dynamic applications, there are a few tricks and tips you can use in Python to ensure that that sort of thing doesn't happen. So in this script, I've gone ahead and ensured that we have Python 2 and 3 compatibility by importing from future, the print function. Going to be super important as ScienceLogic starts moving towards Python 3 compatibility in the future. And I've created a sample dictionary here with a key of foo and a value of bar. And we're just going to print out dict foo. So let's see what that looks like. And we get bar, which is what we would expect. Now, if I try to print a key that does not exist, we are going to get a traceback. You're going to get a key error because there is no key called bar. Or even worse, let's do a print of the foo key, but we're not even going to define that variable. Oh, that's probably a bad name to use. Let's go ahead and just call this data. And we can see already that Visual Studio Code is telling me that we haven't defined that. So let's see what happens here. Yep, name error, name data is not defined. Now, let's say that we do define it, and this had come from a method from another library somewhere, and it actually ended up getting defined as none. So go ahead and run this and see what we get. None type object is not subscriptable. Some of you have probably seen that in your own code as well. So there's a few ways that we can get around this. So the first one is some pretty basic error handling. So we're just going to say if data, because if it is a value of none, or if it's any of the type's empty values, for example, if it's an integer or a float, if it's a 0, it will evaluate to false. If it's an empty string, it will evaluate to false. Or if it's a none type object, it will evaluate to false. In this case, we're just checking to see if we have anything that we can work with. Now when we run this, we get nothing back, but we also don't get that type error any longer. Another possibility when you're working with dictionaries is that instead of using the brackets to access the key value pair, you can do a data.get. And the nice thing about this get method on a dictionary is that you can define a default attribute. So if you try to get a foo key and that key doesn't exist in your dictionary, now you can add some additional error handling and say, if not, let's go ahead and define this as X. If not X, raise exception, or whatever it is that you would like to do for your error handling in this script. So these are just some quick tips and possibilities for error handling and working with dictionaries in Python for your dynamic applications in ScienceLogic's SL1 system.